Welcome into the Morning Glory Show. I hope you're shit showered, shaved. Hope you got your mayo in your cup because it's time to tighten up. We are joining you live on Thursday morning. We hope you guys are excited for this show as much as we are. We got a jam-packed show. We're talking to Andre Sweat. We're talking rookies. We're talking legends. It's going to be fun on a bun. But I'm joined by my co-host, as always, Jonathan Miller at Esports Valen and B-Will at B-Will TFTV and at TFTV Sports. How we doing today, guys?
Great, man. Great. We're full in the swing of summer. We're getting a little closer to training camp, ain't we?
2 more weeks.
Yeah, just a couple more weeks, man. I'm ready, bro. I'm ready. We're seeing all the clips, all the season highlight hype is happening right now on social media. So, man, I'm ready. I'm ready for it.
It's going to be fun. If you guys are joining us for your first time, make sure you do us a couple favors. Go to YouTube, type in Glory Days Sports. Go subscribe. Make sure you hop in the chat, drop your comments down there. We want to have you part of the conversation. And announced earlier this week, we have a signed Tajay Spears jersey giveaway. All you have to do to enter that is subscribe to the channel. That's all you got to do. And we'll be giving that away as soon as we hit this 1,000 subscriber goal. I think we can get there by preseason week 1. We're not too far away, just over a little 200, I believe, as of right now at the time of filming. So let's get those followers up there. We want you to be part of the community. But this can be a great show today, guys. But OTP came out yesterday. We got some little bit more of tidbits from Coach Brian Callahan, him sitting down with Mike Keith and Amy Wells. They're chopping it up. He did confirm yesterday that we will see starters in the preseason. He's kind of went back and forth with that over at Cincinnati. He said we kind of dealt with some injuries early last season with Joe Burrow, as we all know. And he's like, but this is a different team. We got to get some guys out there. We got to get some continuity around the team. Jonathan, who are you most excited to see in these preseason games?
Well, for me, it's the offensive line. It's not any one player necessarily. It's the offensive line and kind of seeing how it can form, really. There's a lot of new players on the team, a lot of Bill Callahan's guys out there and on the roster. And I think that we legitimately don't know what the right side of this offensive line is going to be yet. So, seeing guys like, NPF and Radens, which are guys that we've known, but also some of these other new guys, it's going to be really interesting to see like how they find their way, right? Like Shadiq Charles has had a lot of hype in OTAs and mini camps. So we'll see, like, can he put it together and show us what maybe he's been showing the coaching staff and the media. And some of these other guys, Leroy, what's the last name? One of the
Leroy Watson.
That's right, Leroy Watson. There's another gentleman that we just signed that's a tackle also. I'm forgetting his name off the top of my head, but a couple of Bill Callahan's guys who have made their way onto the roster, seeing if they can find a way to compete with some of the existing guys on the team. I'm most interested in seeing how the offensive line fills out throughout the preseason. And I think we're going to get, quite a bit of snaps from guys who we would consider starters from the previous year throughout preseason, because they really have to, go out there and earn it. Camp's going to be super competitive. Some guys are going to emerge. And so it's going to be interesting to see who that is.
Most definitely.
Yeah.
I think this offensive line rotation just on the right side is going to be the most thing I'm excited to see. We think Shadiq Charles is that incumbent starter as of right now. We'll see how that plays out. You mentioned guys like Radens. Maybe he's going to take some snaps there in week 2 or week 3 as the starter, just to see how that kind of plays out. And then that right tackle position. Is NPF healthy enough to be out there? That's one question. And then same with Jalen Duncan. I want to see what he progressed from year 1 with no offensive line coach, and then adding in Brian Callahan. I want to see what that kind of looks like out there. NPF, he played fucking awful last season in the preseason. Obviously, he got the suspension.
Jesus Christ.
My eyes it was one of the worst in the morning. One of the worst performances I've ever seen. His PFF grade, I don't remember what it is off the top of my head, but it was like 13.
Fucking awful.
It was like 13, and he was going up against like the 4th stringers at that point in time because of the suspension. So hopefully we can see some improvement for that. And God willing, I would think we would. But then, yeah, like guys like Leroy Watson, I'm excited to see that. Obviously, he was a converted tight end over there at Cleveland and then switched over to tackle. And if anything, I think that's great left tackle depth, but we'll see. I mean, he's got talent, and then they brought in the other Browns right tackle from last season. So I'm pretty excited with that. And I was thinking about this yesterday. I was like, who are the most talented 5 offensive linemen, regardless of position? Obviously, the left side is set in stone with Latham and Skoronski. They're bringing Cushenberry. That's it. I think Shadiq Charles is that 4th, and that 5th spot. I mean, that's really hard. I think if it's MPF, that's fine. I think it might be Daniel Brunskill. And I was kind of playing around with that. I was like, obviously, they're paying him at backup center as of right now, and he's still going to kick out to guard. But he's played tackle a little bit over at San Fran as well, and he played pretty well. Didn't give up a sack, I believe, that season he was over there. So it's like I'm not ruling out Brunskill just being the best overall 5th lineman.
John Ojukwu is another guy.
John Ojukwu. I don't forget about John. I love John.
Yeah, he's been making some noise in the early stages of minicamp and OTAs. But yeah, I think the offensive line conversation is really fascinating. And I think it has been for a long time. But the difference for this Titans team now is that this is a competently coached offensive line room. And it is, we presumably found our left tackle. So the revolving door on the left side has stopped, or should have stopped, right? So now it's just let's focus on the right side and see if we can get it up to, starter level quality. Because if this offensive line can jump from 29th in the league or 30th, wherever we finished last year, if we can go from there to like 15 or somewhere between 15 and 10th in terms of ranked in the offensive line stat category, I guess, we are going to be a much, much better offense. And I mean, there was another stat that came out. We don't have to jump into this, but just as a quick touching point, there was another stat that came out that Mike Herndon shared. I think it was yesterday or the day before, where it's like, yeah, Levis was hit on 25% of his dropbacks. Like he was hit on a quarter of his dropbacks or something like that. Just absurd. So yeah, the whole offense hums if we can get this figured out.
I'm excited to see not only personnel-wise with the offensive line, but schematically how we do, offensive line-wise. I think we'll be running, a mix of zone, a mix of powers. We're not really going to pigeonhole ourselves into one running philosophy, and I think they've said as much, in the inklings that have came out. So very exciting to see that with the offensive line. I'd agree with you, not just, singular person, but probably, as a whole, schematically what they do. So
it's going to be really interesting. Just hearing Daniel Brunskill talk about it a couple of weeks ago, he said that we're running a lot of pin and pull, which means they're bringing guys around. They're pulling all over, and I think it gets misconstrued a lot that pin and pull is just pulling 2 guards. It can be 2 guards. I shared a clip last week. I think maybe I haven't put it out yet, but basically he pulled all 3 interior offensive linemen at one point in time, and that's still pin and pull. But I think we're going to see that. I think we're going to see counter. I think we're going to see GT. And then listening to him talk, and Steve Fuchs, whatever you want to call him, it was like 2018. They were talking about in a conference just how much they love the zone-based scheme. So I think we're still going to see a lot of zone out of that. It might not be what our bread and butter, but they're still going to mix it in there. And then Scott even talked about just the short sets into the drop sets. And I got to thinking about J.C. Latham. What was his biggest concern getting drafted? It was that drop set. He oversets and then gets beat inside. I think Scott's going to really help with that, as well as Brian Callahan. I'm super excited for Latham. And then just kind of moving on from the offensive line, I'm really excited to see who is edge 3 on this group. We know Arden Key is supplanted as probably edge 2 with Harold Landry as 1. And then 3 is just a rotational door. Obviously, they drafted Jalen Harrell in the 7th round, 6th round this year. They got Rashad Weaver, who's getting the talk and hype right now. They got Caleb Murphy from last year, everybody's offseason darling. I think he had a sack in every preseason game last season. What does that look like this year? And then Thomas Rush. They're telling him to slow down. He's going too fast. He's working too hard. Super excited about that. And then Khalid Duke, that's my guy, undrafted free agent. Super excited to see him as well. So who is just going to emerge there? I'm super excited about.
Yeah, you have to think it's going to be my gut says Weaver, unfortunately. That's the problem. I was hoping that we could get one of these other guys to really emerge, but it looks like it's going to be Weaver, to be honest.
I don't think it's going to be any one person, guys. I don't think there's going to be an edge 3. I think it's going to be a constant rotation. And I think as far as snap share, you're going to see pretty equal amongst, Weaver, Caleb Murphy. And if Thomas Rush happens to be the guy who makes the team or whatever they decide to do there. The good news for us is that there should be enough pressure on the inside that the outside guys should be able to add some quality snaps regardless of how it pans out. But another defensive player that I do want to highlight that I'm really excited to see, whether that be in the preseason or just because I think he's going to be a starter. The easy thing to say is L'Jarius Sneed. Everyone's excited to see Sneed. I am.
Yeah.
We're not going to see much of him in the preseason. I'm sure he'll get a couple series. But the guy that I'm most excited to see on the defense is Cedric Gray. I'm excited to see how he transitions into the pro game. If his intelligence, his football IQ, and his just, I guess, spatial awareness, if that translates, which I think it will. And so I'm excited to potentially see us get a coverage linebacker, if you will, in the middle of the defense, which is something that we've needed, basically since like Jayon Brown, I guess. So for me, it's going to be good to see someone step up in the middle of the defense where there is a gaping hole. And I think that Cedric Gray is going to end up being the guy. There's a good chance that outside of JC Latham, Cedric Gray is going to be the steal of our draft if he pans out the way that I think he's going to.
You think Jaquan Newton's not going to be the silver draft? We got him in the 6th round.
Oh, Jaquan Jackson. I thought about putting him down there just because he showed out in OTAs. But
I know where I got Newton from. I think it was from that fellow that
Jersey Newton.
I just really like Figs. But yeah, I had the rookie linebackers written down. So Cedric Gray, I think once he's out there and he's going to see snaps as a starter out there, I think, and he's going to get some rotation. I'm super excited for him. And then once he leaves the lineup, I think James Williams is coming in, who I am just as excited about. I think he is going to be the steal of this draft. Maybe not this year.
Interesting.
James Williams out of Miami, converted safety. He's got the size. He's still learning the position, but I think he can be a great coverage linebacker. And as of right now, in the 2 starters in Kenneth Murray, and I'm assuming Jack Gimmets, not excited about that. But if you bring in a Cedric Gray and a James Williams out there on the back end on 3rd down, I think there's something there. I think it's going to take longer for him to gain that trust of this coaching staff. I mean, he is a 6th round pick. This guy's coming in as a
also switching positions.
Special teamers.
James Williams is watching this going, wow, really?
When he came in, he showed out at the Senior Bowl. That's what put him on my map.
Right.
He's converted from safety to linebacker there. And I think he was one of the best linebackers in attendance there, even with Cedric Gray. Actually, I had James Williams ranked above him in my pre-draft ranking. So I'm excited for him. I think he's got that dog in him. I think
we got 360-pound human being that we ain't talked about just yet.
That's facts.
I think that brings us to our new topic more than anything.
That's who I'm excited to see for not only training camp but also preseason. I'm excited to see. I'm not worried about his conditioning. I'm just excited to see how his figure is, how he looks when he comes in, how he moves at that lighter weight, which he should be at a lighter weight. If he ain't at a lighter weight, we're in trouble.
Did you see that picture? Did you see that picture? There's like a picture of him at there's a picture that came out, I want to say like 2 weeks ago, something like maybe a week ago.
At a restaurant.
No.
He's at Golden Corral.
No, the opposite. He was like out on a field with some kids at like a camp, and he was slim. He was slimmer than he was at rookie mini camp. So yeah, I think he's getting to it. I don't understand like the discipline stuff. All that's overblown to me.
Yeah, I'm not worried about that.
I think he's going to be in good shape.
I came back from vacation and I see that people are saying, "Is he a bust?" I said, "Well, damn, the dude ain't even put a helmet on yet."
Right.
I mean, what the hell are we talking about here?
We're in the dog days. We're in the dog days of content. B. Will.
Yeah,
you gotta come up with something.
I still can't subscribe to that shit, man. But you're right. It brings us to our next topic, Jake. So
yeah, basically, Sports Illustrated is the one that I found that originally put out the article and basically ranked him as the 2nd most likely player in this draft to be a bust, and that was only behind Bo Nix with the Broncos. So I think the article basically stated everything that we've already talked about since the draft. The weight, okay, we're fine with that. He put it together. He didn't play a lot of snaps at Texas. He played more snaps than just about any other defensive lineman on a per-game basis last year and won the Outland Trophy at a team that competed in the college national playoffs. So T'Vondre Sweat, guy, maybe I would have went a different position with the second-round pick, but this dude has the makeup and the players around him to help coach him up. The driving issue, that's fine. We don't give a shit about that. I mean, we've talked about that with Teron Davenport as soon as it happened. We're good with that. And this team has been super high on him from the get-go. And if they didn't draft him at 38, there's no way they could have traded him back and got him just because of the run of interior defensive linemen that happened right after we picked him.
Yeah. Let's be honest, though. Let's be honest. If the guy had on a Texans helmet or a Colts helmet, we'd probably be saying the same thing. Like, let's be honest.
100%.
You know, but it doesn't take away from the fact that he is probably, and he's at least top 5 likely player to be a bust. Just looking at, before we put a helmet on, before we do any of this, just looking at what has transpired, and I don't really put too much stock in it, but, I mean, we don't have a lot of information about these other guys because these other guys weren't in the spotlight. We do have some with Sweat. He's got a couple things working against him, you would think. You know what I mean? With the weight, you know, the DWI, even though he wasn't even driving. But, you know, it's still, let's be honest, there's smoke to the fire, man. I mean,
this whole conversation in general is just kind of, I don't love this time of year for this reason. And obviously all of the criticism that he got when he was drafted was like, okay, that's fair. You know, he was a guy who was probably a second-round pick at best throughout the season. Then he goes to the Senior Bowl, has an absolutely absurd Senior Bowl, rises up to, they're talking about this guy as a top 15 pick. Then he slides down to the late first round, and then he slides down in projections all the way to like the 3rd or 4th round or whatever. He's just had like this meteoric, like crazy roller coaster in terms of where you assign him. So I get it. Like, people are like, oh, well, you know, at one point he was a first-round pick, so he could be a bust. It's like, bro, he was a second-round pick. The Titans didn't select him in the top 10. You know, like, why? I just don't understand, like, the same, like, criticism that we've heard for the first, like, week or so after the draft, or just, you know, shortly after him getting this DWI, right? So, to me, I'm like, not only am I not bought into this, but I'm with B-Will, like, let's watch him take some snaps first. You know what I'm saying? Like, this isn't Kevin Dodd. Let's watch him play on the field first before we try to assign him as a potential. Like, the topic of potential busts before you even see them play is ridiculous. Did anybody have Sam Howell as the best quarterback from that draft class? No, right? Shut up. It's just not the same, bro. We don't know what these players are going to be until we get a chance to see them on the field. And every single time with every single draft class, with maybe the exception of the Andrew Luck draft class and some of the classes where like the best player is just far and away the first guy picked, like Joe Burrow, whatever. The reality is that everyone gets it wrong. And no one can ever perfectly evaluate how a draft class is going to pan out. So to me, this conversation, not just this one, but talking about projecting how players are going to play, you know, we want to talk about like who is most likely for defensive rookie of the year and offensive rookie of the year. Cool. I'll have that conversation. That's pretty normal. Right. But to be like, yeah, let's pick out, you know, let's see who's going to suck. We have no idea of knowing that. And every single time, if you guess, you'll be wrong 9 out of 10 times. You know what I'm saying? So
I'd rather see that than I saw somebody post an article about a 2025 draft for the Titans.
Same thing.
I'd much rather see the Sweat thing than that bullshit. But
well, we know Sweat's going to be a bust, so we're picking 4th and we're getting James Pierce. That's how it's playing out. We already know why you play the games.
That's what it sounded like. But seriously, the thing with Sweat, you know, he's got his question marks. He had his question marks on draft night. I wasn't too high on the pick, considering who was still on the board. And we know all this. So this isn't all new information. The only new information we're going to get is going to be in 2 weeks when he strolls into training camp in Nashville and he's looking like a, you know, fit model or something. You know, that's the information we're going to get. Then the other information is going to be in preseason if we see the guy's dominant or not. But we're not even really going to be able to tell that because he's not going to be playing with Jeff in preseason. So what are we really grading it on? You know, come on now. I have hope for the guy and hope for the kid. I'm not high on it. I don't know if I think it was a reach for a nose at 32, but saying all that, he could be an absolutely fucking superstar too. He's got that level of talent, so, it's a risk. It's just like any other pick in the draft. It's a risk.
I think if anything, if he is a bust, that means a bust outplayed Byron Murphy, who went in the first round all year long. So what does that tell us about him?
It's for Oklahoma's review.
T'Vondre Sweat kicked the shit out of us. I'll say that. We won the game, but what he did to Andrew Raym, who got drafted as well, I believe in the 6th or 7th round, he threw that man. Did not get past him, threw him. So, T'Vondre Sweat, I mean, if the off-field issues were not there, if he didn't have the DWI, this is the guy that still would be borderline first-round talent on everybody's draft board because that's where he was before it happened. So if that's just a one-off, you get a first-round talent at the beginning of the second, that's perfectly fine with me.
And then like break that down a little further, Jake. So like you're telling me that because he had a couple of drinks and he was in the vehicle that got stopped, that this makes him not a first-round pick. Okay, so like when you're evaluating talent, I just don't get it, right? And so maybe that makes more sense for the bust conversation because people are like, oh, well, we have him as a higher rated talent. We don't care as much about the DWI thing. Like he's a first-round pick type thing. So maybe you are saying that he's more likely to bust because he has outside factors and he is a better player than what consensus has him. Maybe I can get on with the conversation at that point and I can maybe see the logic. But for me, like I am not a fan of these types of like hypothetical a year, let's predict what's going to happen a year from now. And that's the thing. Like he could come out and have not a good rookie year. He could come out and be injured for half the year or just not play very well. And then you get to the end of the 2024, 2025 season and you go, ugh, that was not a good season for T'Vondre Sweat. He's a bust. It's like, what are we talking about? You can't label guys busts after 1 year either. So like, I don't know, man.
How would SI have liked it if we did an article last year about if they'd be a bust as a company?
We would have been more right than they were.
We would have been right. You would have been right.
All right, then. I mean, this shit is stupid.
And Sobros in the comments, Stoney Keeley, we go check out his shit as well. He says, B-Will, is your issue with the player himself or that they took a DT so early? And I think that kind of leads me into my next question as well. What do you have to see from Sweat to be happy with the pick this season?
My thing is, it's not necessarily, it's a little bit of both. So it's not Sweat himself, but it is a little bit of Sweat himself, but it's also that he's a 360-pound nose, and we took that early in the draft, considering who was on the board. We had Cooper DeJean on the board. We had Adonai Mitchell on the board, two guys I had ranked much higher than Sweat in positions that are very big needs for the Titans, especially at Adonai Mitchell. I mean, you talk about how that would transcend our offense. That we'd be talking, it'd be a different conversation we'd be having today. We'd be talking about how many points we're going to average, a year. That's what we'd be talking about if we had Adonai Mitchell. And Cooper DeJean, we wouldn't be talking about something later on where our green dot guy is a kicker. But, it's the T'Vondre Sweat thing. Like I said, he's a talented player. It's just not exactly who I would have picked. And even though it is like he's a really talented player, it's also about the position of need that we took it at, how we took it at that high in the second round, which is essentially a first round pick because it was 36, 37 or no 38. So it was essentially it's sort of a first round pick. It ain't like it's 54. You know what I mean? And there was some talent left on the board. So
hey,
that's my thing.
Will Levis was the 33rd pick, and is he a first rounder? He's very clearly not because we don't get that 5th round option. So the context of where you pick is kind of important in what you're talking about. But yeah, I think like what for T'Vondre, for me this season, look, I'm never going to be a guy that's going to be quick to say that a guy is not good enough, or label them a bust or anything like that, because I understand that development is different for everybody. Continuity and consistency matters the most in where that player is going to go, right? Kevin Byard didn't become the player he was in his rookie season, right? Derrick Henry didn't become the player he was in his rookie season. So everyone's got a little bit of a different trajectory, but I will say that you do have to see enough from a player early on to know, okay, this guy's got it. Like we can build on this. And like Will Levis is a perfect example. Our franchise is building an entire franchise, an entire rebuild around a guy that we didn't see much but like 9 games from or whatever. Right. You wouldn't look at Will Levis's stats and go, okay, he's the guy. Let's move forward. But the things that you saw from him in game, the traits, the things that a quarterback has to have in order to build around, he showed that. So you can build around. So you're not going to label Will Levis a bust after his rookie season. So it's the same thing for me with Tavondre. I think for me, like anywhere between like 5 and 6 sacks, maybe, 35 to 45 tackles, something like that would be a stat line that I would be like, okay, cool. We can build on this. But more importantly, what I want to see is him healthy and available. Like that is the one thing that's been killing this defense are guys that are talented, but just not available. And so we need some of that. So available and just a mediocre stat line at this point, I would be more than happy with.
I want to see him healthy, available, and generating pressure, especially on third down.
Yep.
You don't draft a run stuffer at 38. You just don't. He's got to generate pressure on third down. He's got to get home to the passer, which is a strength of his. I'm not saying it's not. He's shown that he could do that at Texas. But I got to see it at the NFL level against these dogs that are, in the NFL and the interior. So, he's got to be able to impact the game on passing downs and in passing situations. That's where he gets his – that's where he's going to – for me, that's how I'm evaluating with him. I could give a shit if he stuffs the run. I don't care about that. We stuffed the run for 5 years before, and we ain't got shit to show for it but a new stadium coming up. We ain't got nothing to show for that. We led the league in rushing. We stopped the run, and what do we have to show for it? Nothing. He's got to get home. He's got to get sacks. He's got to get pressures on the quarterback.
I would just reiterate, I think health as well. I just want to see him out there. I want to see him 50-plus snaps per game. Or not 50% plus snaps. No, 50+% snaps with him and Sharon, Sebastian Joseph Day, Keandre Coburn. I'm high on the depth that we have at the position now. And I think we can all say he's closer to Jeffrey Simmons than he is Panda as far as a prospect coming in. He's got the off-field issues, but the talent is there. I think he wants to be a great player. As far as getting to the quarterback, he's going to be fine there. I think he's going to move the pocket. He's not going to have a lot of finishes, though. He's going to let Harold Landry get home like he does best. He's going to have that quarterback move outside of the pocket. He's going to let Jeff and Arden Key do what they do best. And that's all I really want from him. Statistically, I don't give a shit what it looks like as long as he's on the field and keeping these linebackers clean. I think this is the weakest linebacker.
Statistically.
No. And that's the position. It doesn't mean he's not affecting the football game. And I think we can see that in him have 1 sack on the season. I think he can still be a good player. You'd hope it to be more, but I think it'll be fine. And then Ibby in the chat says, not to mention that the also so-called media guys will be the first to admit that they're right, but won't comment when they're wrong. I mean, that's the name of the game. Yeah. It's the name of the game.
They're never
That's off-season content. And then nothing to show for it, but
you get to have an opinion. You get to have an opinion, and then you fire it off into the ether. People get to be upset, and if you're wrong, no one checks you on it. All right, you're just moving on to the next thing. And that's part of what we deal with on the media side, in the content side too, is that you get to just fire off these crazy opinions and drive engagement and not have to suffer the consequences of oh no, I was wrong. You know what I'm saying? Not even Skip Bayless or Stephen A, some of the guys at the very top. Sometimes they get their feet held at the fire because they're at the top. But for the most part, these people get to just have whatever opinions and just fire it off and it be fine. But for me,
Jared Stillman's made a career off of it in the Titans media.
Legitimately, he's the biggest troll of all. He gets to just say the wildest shit, and people get up in arms, and then they go after him. And then his show, he's doing numbers. He's building a career.
I mean, that's what it's about.
You can't be mad at him for playing the game. But yeah,
I'm mad at the people for falling for the shit.
Oh yeah.
But you can't because we're a bunch of drones. That's how.
If you're watching First Take 2, still, what the fuck are you doing with your life?
Jesus Christ. Jake's taking off the gloves this morning.
Yeah.
We're dropping truth hammers out here on the Morning Glory show today.
Yeah, all because of MPF Pistons Cheerios this morning. Everybody's getting it.
Which I think is still the starter, and I think it'll be fine. But last season, no excuses.
The last thing I'll say on T'Vondre Sweat is that for me, maybe the stat line stuff that you pay attention for him and kind of measure success would be his teammates' stats, right? Like you guys said it. Ultimately, this guy is not going to be, he's not an edge rusher. He's not going to give you double-digit sacks and, have this insane, pressure and just get double teams and triple teams. And he's not Warren Sapp, right? Or at least not yet. So my thing is that hopefully he's able to go in there, stuff the middle, and create opportunity for his teammates in a way that they didn't have before. And who knows, guys like Rashad Weaver, Caleb Murphy, like these are guys that should take a step in their career at this point. When you got Big Jeff and T'Vondre Sweat in the middle, if you can't generate pressure off of that, then we are in trouble.
Who are you going to double team out of that? You have to commit bodies to both of these players.
Yeah.
I'll tell you who you're going to double team. You're going to double team Jeff because you're thinking Sweat's going to be tired.
Yep.
So you're hoping he's tired.
No. Yeah, I mean, that's they're probably right. But if you put Sweat on an island by himself, he is athletic for that size. He has a great swim move. And I think he catches a lot of interior offensive linemen off guard with that.
He's going to win one-on-ones.
He reminds me, T'Vondre Sweat reminds me a lot of myself, when growing up in school. All the potential in the world, still not doing, well, I ain't going to say not doing the work, but just not applying yourself as best as you could, And still, you can still win doing that, though.
That's all of us as young folks, though,
Yeah, he's young, so,
that's how it goes. But he's got a big brother. He's got Jeff to come in there and be like, all right, bro, like, no, we're not bullshitting this anymore. Like, this is the NFL. You got to step up. So, and that's the other thing that I know we said it when he got drafted, but that is a highlight that's really, really important to go over again, is that he's not just coming into a room with no leadership. He's coming into a room where there is an established dominant player in this league, maybe a top 4 player at his position, even you could say, that is there to mentor him. So I think that he's going to be in good shape. And I think, obviously, I always lead with optimism, but I think there are a lot of things to like about T'Vondre Sweat going into his rookie year.
I don't think Jeff's got to T'Vondre Sweat until I see his big ass on a bass boat with him. That's when we'll know that Jeff really got to him.
We'll see.
Jeff's been fishing his ass off. I don't know if y'all seen.
Traylon Burks in the background too?
No, he didn't make it to the water.
Lord have mercy. Look what I picked up. Look what I picked up.
Oh, man.
Picked that up at the card show for $1, B. Will. Can you believe it?
You got ripped off.
Where's the hooker one at?
Oh, he's right over here. No, I'm kidding. I just searched the card show for only the players that B. Will isn't high on.
Well, I think that kind of brings us to our last topic before we get into this draft.
No, it doesn't, Jake. No, it doesn't.
We got to get to it just because this is the topic of the show, and this is going to define the season. And Brian Callahan was talking about it in the OTP yesterday that came out, part 2. He said the UFL and there's teams around the league that are talking about these new rules for the kicking situation. And it's no secret that Nick Folk is old as shit at 40 plus years old. He's talking about he's older than all of us.
No, that's what Callahan's saying.
Yeah.
The damn kicker's older than me. I mean, come on now.
Yeah. They talked about the rookie they're bringing in too, and he's like, yeah, it's not a competition. It's Nick Folk's job. And we all got to do that. But they're talking about bringing in these safety or these special teams specialists to add an extra gunner on the kickoff team. Is there anybody amongst this team, because Brian Callahan kind of alluded to that he doesn't think there is a guy that could come in and kick the ball? Maybe he's got a high school background as a kicker. He's got that lead foot, but then he can get downfield and make a tackle as well. We know this is going to look more like a running play than it has traditional kickoffs in the past. So is there anybody to you, B. Will, that stands out on this roster that could supplant Nick Folk as the kicker?
So there's been a lot of conversation about, a certain player in Amani Hooker wearing a green dot, and I thought it was for defense this whole time. But I think the Titans are going to transcend the game and give a kicker the green dot in Amani Hooker. I think Amani Hooker is going to be our kicker. He's going to finally be able to earn some of that. What is he on the books for, about $10 million, something like that? So to get Amani Hooker's worth, to get him to pay for his salary, we need him to play 2 positions because he damn sure ain't earning it at safety.
Bro,
So
just didn't watch the Bengals game in the playoffs. Just didn't watch it.
no, I watched the 15 after the Saints game last year, or 16. Anonymous. But
2 turnovers to start the season.
yeah, he didn't do shit after that either.
Neither did the defense.
Started off hot. He almost had me. Started off hot, and in his defense, he said he's gonna be able to do his job now. I blew a gasket, but that's beyond the point. I think he can really help at kicker. I just, he's from Iowa. He played at Iowa, so he's got some brains a little bit. He does have that. I'll give him that. But I think he'll be able to lead that kickoff team. He'll really be able to organize them, and I think he can excel. So,
no, bro, we know the answer to this. We know the answer to this question. We have the guy. He's on the team. All right, he's the king of all practice squads, the leader of the extra men. It's Mason Kinsey. Of course it's Mason Kinsey. Of course he's going to be out there.
He's going to squeeze himself in there.
Drilling 60, 50-yarders, whatever it is on the kickoff, and then getting down there on gunner, picking up. Bro, I'm telling you, if this is a real thing, I'm not even joking, guys. I'm being so serious. If this is a real thing, we all know that it's Mason Kinsey. He's the extra guy. He was our third quarterback last year. Damn right he was. Damn right he was.
Mr. Do-It-All. Can't make the 53-man roster, but he's the second best at every position.
If you take a piece of paper, you look at his evaluation, right? It's just a Swiss Army knife but it's just a picture of a Swiss Army knife. It's not even like talking about how good he is at whatever, like none of that, right? So it's a joke, but he's kind of has like that Julian Edelman type of like vibe where he's like, do whatever it takes to make the team.
That he does.
We're joking now, but I'm only half joking, because if this is a real thing, I'm not sure that it is. We might be reading into this a little more tightly here, but if it is, Mason's the guy.
Yeah, I can see that, honestly.
I see that more than Amani Hooker, and I think that we both got strong convictions thus far, but you guys are well out of the realm. You're not thinking big enough. This is about jersey sales. And we're talking about first-round picks, and that's Traylon Burks. He's talking about being a gunner out there on punts. Yes, we got to get him out there. And if it's not him, you got to cater to this volunteer fan base. And that's Gay Judy Lawley. Get him out there. He's making to the 53-man roster. He's quarterback 4 or 5. He's getting kickoffs down there. Get downfield, boy. I'm excited.
You said we have to cater to them?
You got to cater to them. Can't spit in their face no longer. We're getting new stadiums. Yeah. We need more fans. Bring Tennessee back. Make Tennessee great again.
We don't need those fans.
The only other ones I could really think of was James Williams and then Otis Reese. Otis Reese has been thrown to the wayside, I feel like, as Tides media has covered, just because this is a guy that was talked about as maybe a potential starter coming into the offseason, and now is he making the roster? It's really comes down to what this team thinks about. And I thought about this one as well. We obviously can't cater to anyone with T'Vondre Sweat around. Put T'Vondre Sweat out there. Make him run gassers downfield. We'll get that boy to 365 before too long.
Hold on. We might be overlooking this entirely, and I think Coach Callie is too. I mean, are we really going to take Nick Folk out? Look, how many kickoffs has Nick Folk covered? How many tackles does he have? Does anybody know that? Stoney, we need your help. How many tackles
has he made? One. He has more than one, I'm pretty sure.
Bro, I mean, come on.
I think Stonehouse has a better chance of going out and laying the wood on somebody than Folk.
That's true. Maybe Stonehouse is the guy. Maybe you put him out there. Bro, let's be honest.
Blake's too big. He's kicking it out of the end zone every time.
It's Mason Kinsey. Let's go to the next topic. Like, we already know it's Kinsey. It always has been. It always will be. Extend him to a 5-year, $8 million practice squad deal, and let's just solidify him. Like, put his number, whichever number he decides. I know he changes his number every year. Put all of those numbers in the Ring of Honor. Put all the numbers he's worn at the top in the stadium, and then let's just move on.
So what do you? One more thing. What are you gonna do, Jonathan, when you see number 15 walking out on the field with a T in his hand?
Number 15 is Nick. I wouldn't honestly. I'd be excited if it was NWI. That'd be fun. NWI has. I'm not an NWI hater. I just wanted Chris Moore instead of him. I was just choosing Chris Moore this offseason over him. But I don't hate that he's here. I wouldn't hate that at all. I like it. His story's fun. I'm not a problem with NWI. If I saw Traylon Burks trot out there to kick the ball, then I would have some feelings. But it would be fun because then look, we'd have some staying.
We talked about Mason Kinsey's eval. I think Nick Westbrook-Ikhines is just a blank piece of paper that says gamer on it. That's all it is.
Yeah.
Bro, just get out there and do what you got to do to make the team. Yeah.
Well, I think that's a good stopping point to move us on to our draft. And if you guys, again, are joining us for the first time, make sure you go over to YouTube, subscribe so you can enter that Tajay Spears signed jersey giveaway. And then additionally, fantasy football is just around the corner. This will be the 3rd year of the Glory Day Fantasy Championship. So make sure if you guys are interested, we'll drop it down in the comments below, a link to where you can go sign up for that. Basically, $20 gets you in. This is the 3rd league that we're adding, and it's all integrated together. It's a fun league. Lots of shit talking in there. It's all Titans fans. Only Titans fans allowed. And half point PPR. You get 0.2 per rush. Great rules. And the draft is just coming up around the corner later this month, at the end of the month. So make sure you go send me an email or hop in the DMs over at Glory Day Sports or the Glory Day Sports actual Morning Glory Show page as well. But that brings us to our draft as we end each show with a draft. And today's a fun one as well. We're going add one legend to this current Titans roster to go into the season. There's some holes around here, and going back and forth with some of these picks. I've got the first pick. B-Will's got second pick. Jonathan's on the turn today. So when I evaluated this draft, I thought about just bringing up the top 10 Titans of all time, but you can't really do that with this just because there's spots that are already filled. So with the 101, I've gone back and forth with this, and I've had 3 names in mind. I know the other 2 will not get back to me, but I have to go with the Hall of Famer here. And that's Bruce Matthews. We got to add in some offensive line depth here. I think he's the greatest Titan of all time. Been to 10 plus Pro Bowls. He's played tackle, guard, and center. I think if you're adding a guy to this offensive line, that's the right side is the biggest question mark right now. And if I'm adding him to the roster, I think we're moving Latham to the right side, putting him at right tackle. I think you're putting him at right tackle and you're moving Bruce to the left side. And I think you're solidified at that point. If Shadik Charles can be the right guard, if you have one hole in this offensive line, you're a top 5 unit, I think. So I'd be happy with Bruce Matthews there. And I think he's maybe not the clear 101, but I think he's damn close. So B-Will, where are we going with the second pick?
Man, for me, I think I'm going to add a guy that, co-MVP and the hell of an era of quarterbacks, and a guy that's gonna wheel this team along. He's gonna be the leader that this team lacks on offense. Steve McNair. We don't got a leader on offense. We don't have that identity. He's gonna give you a good floor of quarterback play and a pretty damn good ceiling of quarterback play as well. Not to mention just the leadership ability of just pulling this team along. We got a really young team, man. Especially on that offensive line. So pulling this team along and giving us really solid quarterback play. Let's be honest, we're gonna, like we said in the previous episodes, our win total is based on how well Will Levis does, right? I think Steve McNair will be able to get us 12, just with the talent that we have in the coaching. I think he would, at least 11. So that's who I got, Steve McNair for sure.
I really thought about Steve just because, maybe it's not the most position that we need the most, but it is a clear upgrade. I don't care how high you are on Will Levis. He's not a co-MVP this season, I would say.
In an era with Peyton freaking Manning, Drew Brees,
Tom Brady. The guys were out
Tom Brady. To win a co-MVP in that era of quarterbacks is insane. That might have been the year Brady tore his ACL, though, but we're not going to talk about that.
I think
they was playing in a realm with Matt Castle.
my only hang up with that pick, and the reason why I didn't have Steve on my board is because this is like for just for the 2024 season. So like a Titans legend you can add that would only be here for a year. So that was my only hang up on that. Only because it's like, okay, you're just flushing Will Levis away for a year, just for a year of Steve. But if we're being honest, Steve McNair is my favorite football player of all time. So I'm in. I'd be totally fine with that, to be honest. It would be worth it to get another year of Steve on this type of team. But I'm glad that you guys went with those two players. Great picks. But you didn't pick the best player, the number one player that if we added this person in their prime on this team, even for 1 year, Super Bowl contenders. I'm telling you, this one player does it. And that's Javon Curse. That's the freak. You're talking about needing that just a little something extra on that defense, just a little bit extra on the edge. A 3-time Pro Bowler, 74 sacks in his career, 245 total tackles. This guy was an absolute menace, an absolute freak. And at a major position of need, at a gap that was like, if we just have a little bit of something extra, then we're going to be in really great shape. So Javon Curse is my pick far and away. I would have taken him with the 101 if we're being honest.
It was one of the guys that was up for discussion, and there was one other guy. So I'm hoping you don't take him here, but you got another pick.
I do have another pick. There's another guy that, to me, this guy is the second, not the most glaring need. Maybe like an offensive lineman, like a Bruce Matthews or Steve Hutchinson, like one of those guys, probably Michael Ruse. One of those guys probably makes more sense. But to me, this is the next biggest gap on our team. And he would it's an instant upgrade, like by a trillion times over. And so I'm going with Mr. Monday Night. I'm going with Keith Bullock.
That was the other one.
Definitely.
All right. We're back to you, B. Will. You got air in the first round. We're going to second.
So I sort of contemplating what I want to do here. I sort of want to go but Michael Ruse, and really like push Latham to right tackle. But I also am thinking about this offense with a tight end like Frank Wycheck. You know what I mean? How this offense could be. So I think I'm going to go Frank Wycheck just because he would solidify this offense. And it would really, he's a do-it-all tight end. He can block. He can run routes. He can go out the backfield. And another leader. You know what I mean? This offense is lacking leaders. We got Will Levis, but he's young. So if I were to add Frank Wycheck, that would really solidify this skill group, and it'd be pretty damn solid, man.
No,
you
one of the greatest Titans Oilers of all time. And the tight end group I don't see as below average with the two we've got up there with Chig and Wiley, but they're not Wycheck by any means.
You could put both of them together, and they're not even half a Wycheck.
Not even close. So I think it's a great pick, and that kind of puts
almost
me
went Dorial Green Beckham, but I didn't mean to say your pick, Jake. I'm sorry.
No, you're good. You're good. We'll get him in the fourth round with that last pick. We'll let him see if he falls. But I'm going safety here, and I think there's an obvious one that most people might take. I think I might go a different direction. I'm going Samari Roll. I think with the defense this team, he's played corner, he played safety. He's undersized, but I think if we're looking at this Denard Wilson's defense, he is a ball hawk. On a per game basis, I'm almost positive had more interceptions than Kevin Byard, who I think would be the other pick. But
he had 23 interceptions on his career. Samari did.
Yep. And I don't think he played near as long as Kevin.
In 7 years.
Yeah. Jeez. That's crazy. It's crazy.
And he only made one Pro Bowl.
Doesn't make any fucking sense.
Wow.
But yeah, I'm going Samari Roll with the second pick here. And I think adding him on the back end, what we're looking at with these corners, and he can play corner too. So I'm cool with that. But having him on the back end to be that ball hawk, create turnovers with these man coverage schemes that we've got going on. Super excited for that. And I could double up here, but I don't think that's what I'm going to do. I am going on the defensive side of the ball, though. And we're not going DGB here. We're going KVB, Kyle Vanden Bosch. We're going red eyes. We're getting that edge one out there on the edge to create pressure. You pair this guy up with the Harold Landry, I'm cool with that. He's going to push the pocket and then allow Landry to have 20-plus sacks because he's just going to clean it up on the back end. But that's a great defensive line with those four, with T'Vondre Sweat and Jeffrey Simmons as well. So I'm super happy with Roll and Kyle Vanden Bosch. And then you've got your third pick, B. Will. So
I'm all about upgrading, man. I know we got what we got, but they can learn from the people that I'm going to bring in. So you talk about a dominant nose tackle. I don't know how this guy wouldn't mention $100 million man. He didn't do anything when he got to Washington, but that's besides the point. But if you add Albert Haynesworth to this defensive line with Jeffrey Simmons, tagging off of him,
that's my next pick.
Different gravy, man. Albert Haynesworth, one of the most dominant noses I've ever seen. Especially in the Titans uniform, he was dominant, man. Now a lot of fireworks between him and Jeff on the field, but still, man, he would just transcend this defense, and it would make it a lot easier on those guys on the back end.
There's gonna be some dirty play out there. We're stepping on helmets and hands. We're spitting in faces. We're throwing people around. We're talking shit the entire game. That would be one of the funnest defenses to watch just from the exterior of just what is happening in between plays.
Oh yeah, for sure. Haynesworth was a player on his day, man.
Let's see. Well, you know what? Again, I'm gonna take what do I have back-to-back picks here to close it out.
Yep.
I am going to take with my next pick. I'm going to take a guy who would be a great plug and play when he was healthy. He was an absolute monster on the field. Pillar of the secondary for many years, 4-time Pro Bowler. This guy was a stud. I'm going to go with Blaine Bishop. He's going to come in, fill that gap at safety that we need, and just, give us some continuity back there. For the last pick, this one is challenging because there's a player that I would like to take that I don't know if technically qualifies as a Titans legend. He's been out of the league for, I think, going on 9 or 10 years now, 8 or 9 years. So I'm not sure that he qualifies as a legend, but I don't know if I want to mention him because I'll mention him I'm going to skip him only because I don't think he qualifies as a legend. Maybe he does. I don't know. I'll see if one of you guys pick him at the end of the draft. If he's not picked, I'll mention him, and I definitely would have taken him here. So just kind of make that
little caveat.
Yeah. So for my last pick, I am going to go with I'm going to go with Kevin Mawai. I think Kevin Mawai.
Solid.
Obviously, we have Lloyd Cushenberry, strong young player. But if I can plug in arguably the greatest player at his position, a top 3 player all time, gold jacket guy, and plug him into the offense, then I'm going to take a chance on him and I'm going to do it. I was considering Derek Mason here, but considering
he's
the
Titans
rules,
legend.
he definitely is. No, that's not who I'm mentioning. Derek Mason definitely is. I just didn't pick him because it's only for the 2024 season, and I feel like there's enough in the wide receiver room to be okay. So just adding some more depth to the offensive, adding a key piece that's going to stand out to the offensive line. Maybe we move Lloyd Cushenberry to like right guard or something in this instance. But it's hard to pass on arguably the greatest player at his position to ever play that position. So
yeah,
going with Kevin Mawai.
Perfect. That wraps up yours with the Freak Bullock, Mr. Monday Night, Blaine Bishop, and Kevin Mawai. Who are we going with your last pick, B. Will?
Man, I can't believe he's still on the board. I'm definitely going to take Michael Roos and then throw Latham to right tackle. And you talk about solidifying the offensive line. And at this point, we got 5 guys competing for that right guard spot. And Roos is a staple, our best left tackle in our history. I could give a shit about the other guy, So Roos, he did it for 12 years, just solid, didn't he? 2 bookends, him, Big Country, David Stewart. 2 bookend tackles, a definition of bookend tackles. Didn't say much, just came in and did the job. And kept McNair clean to a certain extent.
That's all you want.
McNair and others. Was it just McNair? He kept Collins clean as well.
Yeah, no, Michael Roos was there for.
He had the last bit of McNair.
Yep. And then he had Collins, and he had
VY, Vince Young.
VY for a year or 2. Yeah.
Yep. Well, man,
Clipboard
that
Jesus.
Clipboard Jesus was out there. God, what's the other white
Zach
quarterback?
Mettenberger.
Mettenberger.
Well, yeah, I guess he may have been out there for Mettenberger.
No, maybe that was Lawan.
It was Lawan. Yeah.
Yep.
All right. Well, that brings me to my last one to wrap it up. So we're going with AJ Brown. No, I'm just kidding. No AJ.
I was gonna pick him too.
I thought about
picking
it.
him.
I thought about I think it should be talked about more, maybe, that he was the most talented wide receiver that this franchise has ever had.
No doubt.
It just makes it hurt more. I wouldn't consider him a legend, though, by any means.
No.
And this team's wide receivers core is the best it's ever been. So it's hard. It's easy to skip him for me.
Yeah.
But, man, I guess I'm double up with the safeties here. And a shout out to Michael Griffin. He's on my board as well, but, I mean, he's not Kevin Byard. So we're getting Kevin Byard and Samari Roll in the back end.
Is Kevin Byard a tight? I mean, I guess so.
Yeah, he is.
He's a legend. He's arguably the greatest defensive player that we've ever had.
No, you're right. No. I'm not questioning that. I'm just saying he's still an active player. So I didn't.
Yeah.
Living legend.
We'll put a caveat with mine, and we'll put in Michael Griffin as the caveat.
Okay. No. I mean, that's fair. Okay. So the player I was going to take was Chris Johnson.
Chris Johnson. He's on my list. He's 100% on my list. And I was like, we're drafting running backs, he would have been my first. Yeah.
I guess if a player at the end of their career, like if Kevin Byard retired today, like he would sign a one-day contract, retire a Titan, get his name and his number retired eventually, I'm sure. So yeah, I think that's fair. Yeah, I think in my last pick, I probably would have taken Chris Johnson instead of Kevin Mawai in that case. But he was just kind of, just kind of on the fence.
Real quick, if we could replace any of the coordinators, would we? And head coach? I think head coaches stay the same.
It's so hard because we haven't seen it with any of them. Man, that is a tough one.
That is a really tough one. Maybe a Jim Schwartz at DC. But I like Denard a lot.
I like LeBeau.
I like him a lot.
Dick LeBeau is really good. Yeah.
Offensive coordinator, I would say
Matt LaFleur, maybe.
LaFleur.
Yeah.
Or possibly Chow.
Norm Chow? I don't know.
Or Hyman. Dude, not Chow. Not Chow. Dinger. Hyman Dinger.
I could
That's who I would have picked.
Old school. So I don't know if I would take him at this point. Rest in peace, Heimerdinger.
He was a good offensive mind, man. He would have been able to.
Are we saying his last name right? Has it been long enough to where we're just butchering that?
Shout out Dean Pease as well. I think that's
Pease.
He goes
Pease
overlooked.
Is a solid pick.
Yeah.
I think Dinger though, man. That's who I would take as offensive coordinator. Is Dinger. Honestly, he was great for us.
I think if you're picking the weakest out of the head
though.
coach coordinators, I think Nick Coles is the easiest replacement just because we don't know shit about him. He's not calling plays. He's Brian Callahan's friend from the Jaguars. He probably helped bring in Calvin Ridley. But I'm still not convinced he's not a lizard person in a skin suit at this point in time. So we'll see how that plays out. So I do think Heimerdinger might be the best pick there. But what sucks is this team has never really had a great offensive coordinator. And Matt LaFleur was here for a season.
Yeah.
He's obviously a great head coach. So I think that's probably the cop-out answer. Cool. Well, I think that wraps it up today, guys. Just going over the draft, and Stoney, the freak, did go off in the first round to Jonathan because he had the freak Bullock, Blaine Bishop, and Kevin Y. And B-Will had Steve, Air McNair, Frank Wycheck, and Matthew Ruse. And I'm missing a pick. Who was your third round pick?
Albert.
Albert Hainsworth. Big Hainsworth. And then I had Bruce Matthews, Samari Roll, Kyle Vandenbosch, and Kevin Byard. Who had the best team, guys? Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe down below what you guys think. We appreciate everybody that joined us in the chat. Make sure you go subscribe so you can enter that jersey giveaway for Tajay Spears. And make sure you hop into that fantasy championship. We love you guys. We'll be here next Thursday for the last show before we get training camp news. It's just around the corner. We're almost there, guys. But we will check you guys later. We love you. Mean it. See you next week.